Hello, this is Shambhavi. Welcome to Satsang. Satsang is an ancient spiritual practice from India. It means being in reality together. I give Satsang live every Wednesday and Sunday night in Portland, Maine. This Dharma talk was recorded during one of our Wednesday night gatherings. Please visit jayakula.org to learn more about the teachings. You can find video satsangs on Jayakula's YouTube channel, and my books are all available on Amazon.com. Much love to you, wherever and however you are. Every now and then, somebody asks me, what is a deva, or what is a god? So here, Abhinavagupta is explaining what a god is, and in the tradition of Shaiva Tantra. So he is a god, and he's talking about Bhairava, the fierce form of Shiva that is popular in Shaiva Tantra. He is a god because he plays without concern for what is to be attained or rejected. So he simply plays, and we know that playfulness is a form of self-expression. So he expresses himself without concern. That makes one a god doing it at that level. But at our level, we can also learn to drop our limitations and express ourselves without concern for achievement or what we might lose. We can express ourselves freely as a form of play. His play is an outpouring of his own bliss, and specifically his own undifferentiated bliss. In other words, his unconditioned bliss. So his play is just an outpouring. It just keeps continually pouring out from his real nature, which is this unconditioned ananda, which is the bliss, energy, and clarity. He is a god because his desire dominates all that exists. So all the desires that you have are little streamlets, aspects of the desire of God. Big desire, Maha desire, Icha Shakti. And because he is total freedom. The freedom that God has, that this existence has, that the primordial reality has, is the freedom of self-expression, the freedom to create, maintain, or decreate anything. Yeah, decreate, bring back into the unconditioned. Decreation means you return to the unconditioned. Just like a wave is conditioned, it arises in a particular form. You do not see toasters arising out of the ocean. That is a limitation. Right? You go to the beach and the only thing arising out of the ocean are waves. It's a form of conditioning. We are humans. We cannot suddenly change into wasps. That is a limitation. We are conditioned. That's what conditioning means. We're conditioned by having shown up in this form. We have certain ways of seeing and hearing and touching and tasting, etc. And we can't really go outside of our conditioning 100%. When we die, we go back to the unconditioned, and we get recycled. Let's just call it recycling instead of reincarnation. That would actually be more accurate, because if you take a plastic bottle and recycle it, it doesn't come back as another plastic bottle. I mean, it might, but it could be like an entirely different kind of plastic bottle. Or it could come back as a sponge, a scrubby, A grocery bag. A grocery bag, right? Just like you can get recycled and come back as an ant or a dakini, You never know. It's a crapshoot. Just kidding. It all depends on how hard you decide enough. Will it be an ant or a dakini? He is God because although he is not affected by the affairs of the world, meaning manifest life, a murmur toward that which is differentiated is produced within him. The murmur word seems a bit off, but they say there's a disturbance. So Shakti is within Shiva, that energy, that power of creation is residing inherent or immanent in unconditioned Shiva nature. She's creating a disturbance like a beautiful woman creates a disturbance in a man who likes beautiful women. The disturbance is not like hearing a loud and pleasant noise out on the street. The disturbance is like sexual excitation. And then Lord Shiva, feeling this disturbance, overflows and creates the manifest life.
Wow.
So this murmur really means that excitation, that Shakti is inherent, exciting the Lord to produce all this stuff. That's why the manifest world is referred to sometimes as an emission. So he is God because he is not affected by the world, but he is excited to produce it. And manifesting all that exists, he illuminates all. So he not only manifests everything, but he is that light of consciousness within everything. He is within all of his creations. This makes him God. This makes him a deva. He is also worship, since all beings lean toward him. I like that. Enjoying all that he does. Lastly, being awakened, being composed of the totality of all actions, having as qualities consciousness and energy. He is movement, the source of all manifestation. These are the interpretations of the word deva given by the masters in the Shaiva Tantra, meaning in this tradition. Since he teaches, defends, encloses, comes to the aid of, and makes the fruit of actions ripen, he gives assistance to all beings. This is why he is called master, or Adi Guru. His nature being auspicious, he is called the beneficial, Shiva. That's one of the meanings of the word Shiva. In him, in fact, there is nothing that is not beneficial. All these traits exist to some extent in Rudra. That's another name for Shiva, fierce form of Shiva. In Indra or other divine Shaivite forms. This is why here we have qualified Shiva as supremely great in order to exclude these other limited aspects. In this way, obeying the orders of Shiva, I will show that which must truly be known, according to one's own immediate awareness of it, according to intuitive reason, and according to the treatises of the Lord, the Trika and the Krama. So the Trika and the Krama were two schools of Tantra, or two lineages, or big swaths of Tantra at the time. So according to one's own immediate awareness. People always want to know, where did these symbols come from? Say, for instance, the symbols associated with the chakras. Or where did this idea come from? Or where did this concept come from? The number one thing about this tradition that you have to remember is it comes from the insight of people doing practice. It comes from your immediate awareness. All of these things that we have inherited, like the 36 tattvas and the symbols of the chakras, the practice of tattva shuddhi and the yantras and the mantras, all of it comes out of yogic practice, comes from immediate awareness. They are forms of God speaking to the forms of God that show up as practitioners. They're the language that is given to us, the symbolic language, visual language, etc., conceptual language, given to us by our own enlightened selves to help us to wake up. So that, in saying that he's going to show what must be known, this is at the beginning of the Tantra Loka. Number one is according to one's own immediate awareness. This is direct realization practice. We are practicing so we can know directly, according to our own immediate awareness, not according to what someone tells us or what we we believe or have faith in, but what we actually find out. And then according to intuitive reason. In another place, Abhinavagupta says, see if I can remember it exactly, spiritual ignorance reinforces intellectual ignorance, or spiritual ignorance and intellectual ignorance reinforce each other. Spiritual ignorance means being ignorant of our real nature. When we are ignorant of our real nature, it reinforces intellectual ignorance. We may be brainiacs, maybe have some great job at a university or whatever. But if we are spiritually ignorant, then everything that we come up with on that level will also be intellectually ignorant. We will have no immediate awareness of it. When we become less spiritually ignorant, when we start to wake up, then we start to have intuitive reason rather than gross intellect. We start to be able to use our minds in this very special way, which is hard to describe. But in the way that our intellect is still functioning, it's functioning even better because we have more clarity. But our intellect is now not making anything up about anything. Right? Our intellect is being used to help us to comprehend what's actually there. It's a very different feeling. It's hard to describe to you because, of course, I was once in academia and I had lots of theories about everything. And I loved to play that way back then. And I was using my mind, I was also always using my mind to try to find things out directly, but I was also using my mind in a much more conventional way to, make up theories about things and spin out how I thought the stuff was, just using my mind, And now that I'm not doing that, it's like, this huge window just got opened. My mind is still functioning, my intellect is still functioning, but it just feels entirely different. It almost is like this sense, that the intellect becomes a sense, not just the thing that thinks about stuff. I really can't describe it, but it's almost has a sensory feeling now, not like hearing or touching or smelling. That feeling of reaching into things and, there they are, and something comes to you and you know about it. It's very, very different. And actually, when you get direct downloads, there's sort of like the slow way where you're just going along and things are coming to you and you're doing something with your mind to kind of get them. But then there's also this other thing that happens, which is, how people get mantras and how people got all those symbols and all that direct transmission. And when that happens, you can even have a sensory mind experience. It's really interesting. It's almost like a little bomb goes off in the center of your head at Agya Chakra. It actually is a little scary. You can actually feel the knowledge being given to you in your mind. Doesn't happen that often, thank God. To me, anyway, I'm not ready for it, but it is interesting how the mind wakes up in a sensory way. So, number 1 is according to your own immediate awareness. That gets pride of place. Number 2, according to intuitive reason. And number 3, finally last, is according to the treatises of the Lord, the Trika and the Krama. So the treatises of the Lord are those texts that are downloaded into the human realm directly, like the Shiva Sutras, the Taramas, the treasure texts. And then there's the treatises of the gurus and teachers of the tradition. Those are the tantras, the practice books, the books of view teachings. So that's the order in which we are going to find out what must be known. This is kind of in the introduction, so I'll read the whole thing again. But of course, I was also commenting and changing words, so it's not going to sound exactly the same when I do it this way. He is God, Deva, because he plays without concern with what is to be attained or rejected. His play is an outpouring of his own bliss. as an undifferentiated mass. His own bliss meaning unconditioned. That's, I think, what the translation is getting at. He is God because his desire dominates all that exists, and because he is total freedom. He is God because, though he is not affected by the affairs of the world, a murmur toward that which is differentiated is produced within him. So an excitation toward that which is manifest, which is differentiated, the experience of duality is produced within him. Because manifesting all that exists, he illuminates all. He is also worship, since all beings lean toward him, enjoying all that he does. Lastly, being awakened, being composed of the totality of actions, having as qualities consciousness and energy, he is movement, the source of all manifestation. These are the interpretations of the word deva given by the masters in the Shaiva Tantra. Since he teaches, defends, encloses, comes to the aid of, and makes the fruit of actions ripen, he gives his assistance to all beings. This is why he is called master. His nature being auspicious, he is called the beneficial. In him, in fact, there is nothing that is not beneficial. All these traits exist to some extent in Rudra, in Indra, or other divine Shaivite forms. This is why here we have qualified Shiva as supremely great, in order to exclude these other limited aspects. In this way, obeying the orders of Shiva, I will show that which must truly be known, according to one's own immediate awareness of it, according to intuitive reason, and according to the treatises of the Lord, the Trika, and the Krama. Even in a second removed translation, it's beautiful. You want to hear a little more? Bhairava, which is the fierce form of Shiva, carries the universe, and nourishing and sustaining it, he is carried by it. So everything, he carries us, and we are his arms and legs, his senses. So we're carrying each other. He is the roar of the universe, accompanied by consciousness. So the roar meaning Shakti. Bhairavi, the roar. He protects those that are fearful of the flow of becoming. Meaning those who have recognized that there is something other and that it's fearful to be stuck in duality. He is born in the heart, where arises the awareness of the cry that is provoked by the fear of becoming. So he is born in the heart, and there the cry issues that urges you to wake up. Your dissatisfaction with duality, with life and death, the process of being born and dying. Through him is produced, by means of his grace, the awareness of the fearfulness of existence. Master of the goddesses of the sense organs, whose cry frightens those beings that are chained and focused on themselves. Wait, is he talking about you guys? Master of the goddesses of the sense organs, whose cry, meaning the sense organs' cry, frightens those beings that are chained and focused on themselves. He puts an end to the vortex of samsara. He is thus very frightening. These are the meanings of the name Bhairava that conform to his nature as described by the sages in the text. And then it goes on to the part I already read. I'm going to stop there. Jayakula is a nonprofit community offering opportunities to learn and practice in the direct realization traditions of Trika Shaivism and Dzogchen. We are based in Portland, Maine and Portland, Oregon. Visit jayakula.org to explore more of our offerings.